So it will bring not just regulatory clarity to customers and investors about how they actually can invest and treat crypto assets and other types of tokens, but also it will bring that clarity to all kinds of financial institutions.
And here we are, Christian, Lukas. Welcome back to Christian, and nice to meet you, Lukas. First of all, tell me about this Conio Bitpanda relationship. I mean, what's going on there, Lukas?
So first of all, great to be here. Thank you very much for the invite. I think we'll touch base on that also later. But what Conio, but also Bitpanda actually sees currently in the European market is that adoption from institutional, from the financial service sector, banks is actually going for crypto forward. As we both are exactly in that space, having a couple of different initiatives, we are also like always aligning on that, and therefore it's great to be here today with Christian and to speak a lot about that.
That's interesting, Christian, because sometimes you open Twitter and you see all of the crypto comments around, crypto commentators, and you really never understand if it's for real, if are just tech fanatics, crypto fanatics, but the institutional adoption, it looks like it's happening for real with these ETFs and BlackRock and all of this stuff. So I think it's a very interesting moment in time, this one, comparing with 1 year ago. Christian, you remember when we started to have a chat about these topics?
Well, I mean, you're fully right, and the point is that the industry is really changing because Bitcoin and crypto were I would say badly tolerated 1 year ago from institution regulators and so on. Now situation is completely changing, and we can say that today the crypto industry is a fully legal activity, is fully regulated with the advent of MiCAR. If you look at the preamble of MiCAR, the premises of the law, you have quite a lot of preambles in this law, and they are 110. But if you read the first, well, the first is interesting because our regulators say that the European Union has a policy interest in the growth of the crypto industry because they consider it a transformative technology for the financial industry. And because of this, they think that this industry is it's a great opportunity for economic growth and for the creation of new job opportunities in the future. No? This is a big change, a very big change. And this will give financial institutions the confidence to join the sector, and it will really start a new era, I would say.
Got it. But what are the main changes or transformations that this MiCAR is supposed to bring on the table, Lukas?
I think the most important topic is to understand that MiCAR for the first time is not just a regulation where it's about money laundering prevention, how crypto was more or less, depending on the country, regulated until now, but it's for the first time a very consumer protection focused, but also organizational maturity focused regulation, which is quite similar to what we have in the European Union under their investment laws and regulation called MiFID II, for example. So it will bring not just regulatory clarity to end customers and investors about how they actually can invest and treat crypto assets and other types of tokens, but also it will bring that clarity to all kinds of financial institutions. And this actually is what Christian said quite well, right? The driver suddenly for an openness for institutions and banks to look into that new asset class on the one side, crypto, but also on the other side to different use cases around tokens, stable coins, and tokenization, for example.
That's interesting. What is the behind the scenes mood about it among the industry operators? Is it something like, oh gosh, now we have to deal with the MiCAR? Is like, oh, that's an interesting opportunity. What do you think? Christian first and then Lukas.
Well, I would say it's a big headache
Right.
Because you have really a lot of things to do. No, that's clear because the cost of compliance will really grow. But okay, that's the of course the downside of it. But you have also the other advantages. No, first, for the first time, we will have a single market for crypto services, which is a huge advantage. I mean, from a business perspective, it will allow crypto companies to grow quicker and to reach quicker a global scale, which is extremely important when you have to compete with the US giants and the other big worldwide companies that we have in the crypto space. And then the other important thing is that it makes crypto companies much more attractive for investors, and especially for US investors too, because the market is bigger, because we have no uncertainty from a legal perspective, which is extremely important, because if there is something that investors really hate is the unpredictable of legislation and applicable laws. No, that's something that you really hate if you are an investor. And therefore, I mean, there are a lot of positive things, even if you have to deal with quite a much bigger complexity. This has also a different effect, because if you are an existing player, you will be able to cope with this complexity. While on the other side, if you're trying to launch today a startup, it will become much more difficult, I would say, because the initial costs would be probably a little bit too high.
I see. So regulation brings more, let's say, entry barriers to new startups, because they will have to comply with a lot of different rules that before were not there. And Lucas, what's your feeling talking with the operators behind the
Sure.
scenes?
I think the most important topic is that it's clarity, right?
Right.
And we as Bitpanda, but also a lot of the industry across Europe is looking very much forward exactly to get that, because it will finally bring crypto as an asset class and use cases on the blockchain to a level of regulatory clarity and stability that it suddenly can be applied and used across the whole financial service sector and industry, which is highly important. For sure, as Christian said, this also comes with regulatory costs associated with it. So this is also why we will see that only larger players in the market will actually survive, or also a certain consolidation either way is already ongoing since last year. So this is what we also will see in that regards. But we, already as of today, we're a regulated player, are looking very forward for, especially for harmonization. Currently, Bitpanda is registered with 12 different regulators across Europe, and the MiCAR framework will finally give passportability, meaning one framework for the whole European Union and the markets there, to have with one license actually to passport across the market. And this will be very, very good, because it gives also end customers much more clarity, stability, and especially also banks about how to deal with different partners.
How long will it take for this MiCAR to be applied, executed, received, customized? I mean, what is the time frame there?
MiCAR will get into place on the 30th of December 2024 from a European legislation perspective.
Right.
And theoretically, until then, every national legislation, meaning every country in the European Union, needs to apply that regulation into local law. And then it depends on how fast the local regulators, for example, the Bank of Italy, or on the other side, the German regulator BaFin, for example, are with applying that for obtaining and granting licenses. And so I personally believe what we will see is very different levels of speed across different European countries. There will be some countries which will be very fast in already from Q1 2025, enabling existing crypto providers to opt into MiCAR and to get a license. And there will be others who simply will take more time because it's not a priority for them from a country perspective. So it's very important, I think, to understand where in Europe there will be the regulators who are faster and to be actually also there. And to hope also that, for example, in Italy, actually, there will be a certain momentum of innovation in that regards what we at least hope for.
Interesting. Do you expect, Christian, Italy will be one of the slower, or the faster? I'm on the fastest or the slowest?
Traditionally, we are slow, but it's not always the same. No? For example, Italy was the first to introduce the AML, the fourth AML directive, with a more than 2 years advantage over Germany, for example. I hope that Italy will be one of the first, and I see extremely positive signs. For example, Bank of Italy launched this year this call for proposals for uh, blockchain projects, and we won one of these projects, and we are working just now with Bank of Italy to on a euro token project, and we are actively discussing with them the issues on how to apply MiCAR when it will become applicable, and so on. No? Therefore, we are really trying to work with them to speed up the process of the MiCAR adoption.
Help me understand the future relationship between traditional players and, let's say, crypto players. What do you expect to happen in the next 12 to 18 months? Like a great wedding all together, and now we are big friends, and fantastic. That's it. Disney style of ending. Collaboration, full war, where traditional banks say, okay, now we play, bye to everyone, and that's it. What is the scenario there, Lukas?
If we look especially in the last 10 years of banks, how banks innovated and still innovate, they have become very open, at least, to collaboration and to cooperation. What does that mean? They understand, and I think this is what we already now, as of today, and we as Bitpanda Technology Solutions are in talks with all major banking groups across Europe. What they already have understood is that they have a lack of expertise and a lack of understanding of the technological framework and in the end, in the tech, right? Why? Because for more than 10 years, more or less every bank in Europe ignored the topic of blockchain and crypto due to the non-existing regulatory clarity. So what they are now actually are very open to learn, but they also know that they will not be able to build anything of that at a larger scale in a short amount of time on their own. And this is why they are very open to actually look out there and seek for a partner or even more partners, in, for example, a best of breed solution, to say who can provide crypto custody services, to build an service offering, for example, on top of, who can provide liquidity and trading, order book management software, who can provide staking functionality or smart contract interaction on the blockchain. And what we will see in the next 12 months is that a lot of European banks at all different sizes will announce service offerings in that regards,
right,
with partners in cooperation or behind them. That can be from a pure technological perspective, but, and I think that's the interesting topic Christian also mentioned in regards of Conio, also in regards of providing the license framework together, right? Because the bank, for example, is sometimes not yet willing to offer regulatory license-wise a crypto service, and wants to have a strong partner in that regards. And this is what I personally believe what we will see, and what, for example, we in Austria as Bitpanda started already with a larger community bank, but there are also use cases in Italy, for example, on Conio's side.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what's the situation in Italy?
I totally agree with Lukas. I mean, it's perfect, spot on. What's happening is that the perception that the crypto market will be a big thing is growing. I personally expect that as we have today 400 million of current accounts, in the 5-10 years, we will have 400 million wallets offered by banks to their customers. Because with a wallet, you will be able to do quite a lot of different things. Because of this, banks will be attracted to the sector. As of today, I agree, Luca was totally right. I mean, they are starting to experiment. As soon as things become more serious, Some of them will try to do everything in house, but this is extremely complex. To build a working custody, a reliable custody framework, you have to work, you have to spend at least a couple of years. And if you are a regulated financial institution, probably even more. And you cannot
Yeah.
afford to lose so much time today because market is really moving very fast.
So I can expect for a lot of collaborations, cooperations, M&A, probably acquisitions of companies, technologies. By the way, I was reading the BlackRock ETF application, and they clearly stated Coinbase as a partner for some activities. So that collaboration that Lukas was mentioning is already happening. I mean, for instance, in that sector. So it will be interesting to see which will be the next step and which will be the main next collaboration between like a big bank and a big player. That will be very interesting to see.
I think there, just one comment from my side, there is one big difference in the US as of today with Europe. What you see in the US is that product issuers like Coinbase, other asset managers, and product houses, they are actually now going a step forward and creating traditionally regulated financial products backed by spot crypto assets, for example, Bitcoin, with exactly the US market leader for these crypto related blockchain services, Coinbase Custody, and Coinbase Prime / Coinbase Exchange. What we see in Europe is even a step further, which is, I think, the really interesting thing to line out, right? It's not about product issuers. For sure, there are also ones like DWS, largest German asset manager, now also going to issue crypto ETNs, so exchange traded notes. But we have banks starting to offer spot crypto services or crypto custody services because our regulatory clarity and framework with MiCAR is much, much stronger than in the US, where there is no clarity yet. So I think that's actually is the interesting part for Europe, where also mainly European regulated crypto providers can be and are these partners for these very traditional or incumbents in the end, were traditional banks.
On a daily basis, I have, Christian knows about it, I have on social media people that come under my videos and leave comments about, Bitcoin and whatever. And I collected a lot of insults during these years, like a lot, because people say Bitcoin is a scam, blah, blah, blah. So, and we know about all of these arguments. Can you help me to take a picture in this moment and say, okay, what is at the moment absolutely okay, what is accepted and what is not accepted in this new framework? Let's start with Bitcoin. Europe and US, is it a digital asset? Is now everyone agree? Is no, still some doubts? Where are we in this moment?
Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency. It's the simplest to understand. It's one of the few that even the US is not going to classify as a security. The others have different issues. Therefore, it's the most clear use case of the in the crypto space. Because of this, I think Bitcoin will keep its leadership position mainly as a store of value. And if you look a little bit at what happened in the last year, which was not one of the best for Bitcoins, but if I recall data well, I think that Bitcoin grew 35%, Nasdaq between 20 and 25, while long-term treasury bonds have had a performance that was close to zero, I would say. No, the effect of this, especially when you have a high inflation rate as of like today, is that you need a store of value, which is, I mean, the traditional use case of Bitcoin, the traditional way of looking at Bitcoin. The effect of this is that I personally expect a positive period for especially Bitcoin, because it's the clearest use case of cryptos, and I have a very positive view on the market.
What about you, Lucas? What's your take on
Sure.
this?
I think the important topic is what we see under MiCAR regulation in Europe, but I'm also fully sold on that, is that cryptocurrencies, meaning crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, and others, are seen from a regulatory perspective, and therefore also from a regulator and industry perspective, as an asset class, as a high risk, high yield asset class. But that's something you can get into any portfolio distribution and allocation, right? Strategically, 1 to 3 or 5% high risk assets, and there is a certain fit from an institutional investor perspective, but also for everyday Joe investment allocation and portfolio strategy. What we have besides cryptocurrencies are different kinds of tokens, right? Which are stablecoins, for example, which are much more like payment tokens, and also regulated much more in the way of e-money type of payment utility. And then there are the third type of tokens, which are tokenized assets, or assets which are or tokens which are asset backed, actually asset backed tokens, which can be, for example, a token which has security in the back, or some real estate, or any other type of physical asset or a digital asset. And therefore, regulation also is very important to differentiate between these types. But also from a utilization perspective, it's very different. For, are you building services? For example, there are in France some examples where they are going heavily into the use case of tokenization of certain assets, because it creates liquidity, it creates usability, it creates fractionalization or ownership in that regards. Or a topic of stable coins in a time of high interest rates, for example, that gets very interesting. And has, from a settlement perspective, from a payment utility perspective, much more advantages. So I think, long story short, in the US, that the regulatory clarity is still missing. They need stablecoin regulation. They need also cryptocurrency regulation. But when Europe are definitely a step above. Yeah.
And does MiCAR help to discriminate between, let's say, serious project? And so you mentioned Ethereum, Cardano, or these kind of projects. And avoid the Luna style projects. What is the, how do they create this certainty to avoid that, random scam crypto projects jump in, and then we have problems there?
I think that was, for MiCAR, the huge drive from a regulatory perspective, and we as Bitpanda also are in several working groups with the different regulatory bodies in that regards, like in ESMA, for example. It was exactly that stretch to get the regulation out, meaning every crypto project who does an ICO or wants to be traded and serviced in the European market needs, for example, a white paper, a 5-page document where you need to describe what is the token about, what are the tokenomics, meaning a little bit like a small version of a MiFID II, MiFIR prospectus, meaning some key information document for investors to describe the risks, to describe the aim of the project and that stuff, just to get investors much more educated before they buy a coin, which is, for example, probably a very low liquidity coin, very newly, highly risky, and therefore also for investors probably not that well suited compared to others like Bitcoin, which is very established and, as Christian said, like the gold standard for within the cryptocurrency world.
Got it. Christian, anything to add on this, like to how to give more security? And also, I would say the main issue that I see from a communication point of view and perception point of view is still, all of these projects, shitcoins that had such a bad impact on the industry during these years, and how to say, okay, that's it, guys. No more of this stuff. Let's focus on the real deals here.
I mean, I will say I agree with Lucas. MiCAR is very much about customer protection in very many aspects. One is the white paper, but it's not the only one. Service providers must set up quite a lot of policies to ensure that they are able to deal with conflicts of interest, with market abuse, and the typical things that can damage a customer at the end, and different malpractices that could happen in an unregulated world that will be eliminated by MiCAR, of course. This will make the sector a little bit much more complex from a compliance point of view, but a couple of dangerous things that happen in the couple of last years will be avoided probably. I mean, the proliferation of very strange tokens, big conflicts of interest between the issuer of the token, the custody provider, and the operator that manages the marketplace, and so on. Now, these are things that will be a little bit more difficult to do with MiCAR. A law will not abolish malpractice, of course, but it will give a tool to regulators to avoid it.
Got it. Very, very interesting, Christian. Lukas, thank you so much about this session about the magic word of MiCAR. I don't know how to describe it, but it will be very interesting to see the evolution, and let's talk soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.